Hello there, and welcome to Innovator Insights from Idea to Impact. This is the podcast where we interview successful product entrepreneurs and learn about their journey, but not just about the good stuff, about the hard stuff too, and how they came up with the idea, how they brought it to market, and what they're working on right now. So today, we're super excited to have Ari Hirsch with us. He is the founder and CEO of InstaSteam. Welcome, Ari.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We're excited to learn about your story. So tell me, before we jump into InstaSteam and how you got there, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself? Where do you live? Do you have family, pets? What do you do when you're not working?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm in Vegas now, originally from LA. I got a family, I got a wife, I got a son, and I have one on the way next month, actually.
Oh,
So,
congratulations!
thank you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I'll have my hands full.
Yeah.
So,
And running
but,
a company, how big is InstaSteam now?
I mean, we're in that transition of becoming like a full-on company out of that startup stage, kind of. So
Yeah.
we're going to be valued at $50 million now.
Wow.
And
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, we're on our way to the big leagues.
And
So yes.
how many employees do you have? How big is your team?
Right now it's still pretty small. I mean, we're going to be growing it probably before the end of the year. We'll probably be adding on a lot more people. We're going to be opening a new office here in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right now we probably start around like the 5 mark,
Yeah.
people. We still outsource a lot. So
Yeah.
web team, marketing team, like a lot of that stuff is outsourced, so not necessarily internal employees.
Yeah.
But as you grow, you transition. It's all about what's cost effective. So
Yeah. Well, congrats on all the success. So let's go back to the early days. So first, like pre InstaSteam, are you a serial entrepreneur? Had you started other companies before? Or was this your first thing?
So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, I'm not necessarily, I'm still pretty young, so I'm not a serial entrepreneur yet where I have a lot under my belt. I do have a book of ideas where I'm constantly writing stuff down, drawing it out, so I'm always innovating. I originally, when after high school, I mean, even in high school, I took a couple of years of engineering. My plan was to go into engineering, so I always loved that creative, that path.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then once I started engineering, I didn't like that. I changed to business, where I was able to apply that engineering part of my brain to, creating products and doing what I loved. But I also love the business part of it also.
Yeah.
And then growing up, I had my parents. Both my parents are pretty entrepreneurial. So my dad always loved starting his either side gigs or into companies that he had ideas for also. My mom's in real estate, had her staging company. So both my parents were in business and, entrepreneurs also. So I kind of grew up in that space,
Yeah.
was in my blood.
So that was you always thought of, that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I always had some sort of feeling of like, it'd be I always loved that idea of, owning a business or creating something one day. I wasn't sure if it was going to be, taking the engineering path and working for a company, or if it was going to be me creating it myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until it happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always something that I, saw in the future in terms of
Yeah.
innovating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I talked to a lot of folks, and I'd say it's about 50-50. A lot of folks are like you. They had an entrepreneurial family, and it kind of came natural. And then, but about half of folks out there, they did not. I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family. That I didn't know how to spell the word, and it took me a little later in life. I worked as first was an engineer, and then I worked in management consulting, and then I happened to be in San Francisco in the .com days, and everybody was starting a business, and it was easy to raise money. That's sort of how I got into it. Also, I was tired of traveling all the time as a management consultant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me your origin story. How did you come up with this idea?
So after high school, I studied abroad for a year, had a chance to travel a lot, many different countries. And that's really where this first idea, everything, I always had stuff brewing. Like I said, I have a whole book of ideas, but this
Yeah.
specific idea, my first, product launch and big company. Yeah, I was just traveling a lot. I was living in a dorm for my first time. And, I burnt my clothes with an iron.
Yeah.
And then after traveling a lot, I was, did some backpacking. I didn't really have a good option to have nice looking clothing most of the places I was
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
And even looking at my friends and just people living in the same situation, it just wasn't, we're trying not to spend so much money, because
Yeah.
you're college kids.
Yeah.
So you're not paying for dry cleaning all the time. We're
Yeah.
lazy. We don't want to be sitting there ironing our clothes and stuff. So it was kind of that experience that made the idea pop into my head of I need a convenient, quick option that, I could just have on the go or even just, when I'm living at home. And that's where the idea popped into my head of I have a garment bag. It would be cool if I'm already traveling with that, if I could pull that out and that would steam my clothing for me. I'm not carrying a travel steamer. I'm not ironing in the hotels, and some of them don't even have those options.
Yeah.
So that's the idea was my garment bag that I was bringing with me everywhere.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, and then I had the opportunity once I got back. And once after that year, I came back to LA, continued college, and that's where I started working on the idea.
Yeah. So how did you know it was possible? Right.
Yeah, I didn't. I made when I was traveling, I made like a little sketch video. I drew out, the idea, how I envisioned it.
Mhm.
I had no idea what components or, how any of this worked. I was fresh out of high school. I have no experience in chemistry or, I mean, the little that I have,
Yeah.
but I didn't know much about even, travel steamers or how, what creates the heat, what creates the steam, the
Yeah.
length of time, all that stuff. Um, yeah, when I got back and I started college, it was just a lot of research, and a lot of testing.
Mhm.
I made different versions of the product and, until I was able to make a working prototype. But yeah, starting from the beginning, I had no idea that would work. I kind of just liked the idea of it, and I was like,
Yeah.
it would be cool to see. I wasn't even planning on making a company out of it, or even launching a product. I just wanted to see. I thought it was a cool concept. I was
You're
like,
just
is this
tinkering.
even possible? Yeah. I was living back at in my parents' house in LA, and I was in my bathroom in my parents' house. That's where I was inventing everything and like doing chemical stuff and doing all that science stuff.
That's great.
Um,
And for those that are watching the video, they can see the product in the background, but could you just
right.
describe what the product is for those
Yeah,
who are just
absolutely.
listening?
Yeah, so InstaSteam it's the world's first electricity-free clothing steamer. So the idea is you have one of these little pods with you, you tear it open, fill it with water, and you have your clothes steaming, hanging inside a garment bag.
Mhm.
And you stick this pod at the bottom, zip it up, and it steams your clothing for you inside the garment bag. Um, it's the first, they're a TSA approved. It's the first clothing steamer allowed on cruise ships. So the whole idea was to create just a little product that you could bring anywhere with you, no restrictions,
Mhm.
and no hassle. And
So how
so
does it
that's
work? There's some chemical reaction that happens
yeah. We have, so it's made up of all natural minerals.
yeah.
And you pour the water in, it creates a reaction, heats the water to about 300 degrees. That's how we get it to start so fast. I mean, it's an instant reaction with the water and heat. So you don't have to, it's not like a traditional, steamer iron where you have to wait for it to turn on and heat up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a reaction, we're able to control what's happening with all the minerals and
Mhm.
chemicals. And so, yeah, so once you pour the water in, it activates, our new pods activate in about 15 to 30 seconds. And so you fill it up, you stick it in, zip it up, and within about 30 seconds, you'll have steam, and you leave it in for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the type of clothing.
Yeah.
Let it steam your clothing for you.
That's awesome.
Um,
What a
yeah,
great idea.
thank
And
you.
then you have so you have one bag and then you have multiple pods then, so you use one pod each time. Is that how it
Yeah,
works?
so the pods are disposable. It's kind of like buying like laundry pods that you stick in the washing
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
Garment bags are reusable. So yeah, so we sell like the starter kit, and you could buy the refills after. And then we also have, it's not in this picture, but we launched a spray also. We have like a wrinkle release and anti-static spray that works with the product. So it kind of gives you that fabric softener, anti-static, effect. And then you
Nice.
have the steam with it. So it's kind of like it like nails down on the wrinkles even more than just even steaming it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
so
brilliant. So yeah, so can you walk us through the path there? So you're in your parents'
right.
bathroom and you're tinkering with when did you have the first MVP of the product, right? The first prototype.
Um, so yeah, I came back. I came back in the summer, and it was in 2017. So the summer of 2017, I came back, and then I probably had a working prototype closer to the end of the year, maybe November, December already.
Yeah.
Probably was already in that stage of like having a working prototype. Didn't look so
Mhm.
good, but was working.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I mean that next year, that's when once I had that working prototype, it kind of started moving along where I was able to say, okay, now it's the design part of it.
Yeah.
Right materials, how do I make this work? And look nice. And then so yeah, so after I had the working prototype, I made like a nicer looking version of it.
Hmm.
And then I went to my first angel investor to get some money to actually do an actual, a manufacturing run and
Yeah.
get some initial product to get started.
Yeah. That's
Um,
great.
so yeah, so that's how I got started with that. And then, so yeah, once I got my first angel investor on board, was able to do my first run. With that next year, we did like a little test market. Just getting everything off the ground, setting everything up. And then we officially launched in 2019. Um, and yeah, in the summer of 2019, we launched a home shopping network. We were getting started with cruise lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was taking off pretty well. And then, I mean, we had like a short 5-6 month period where we were launching, and then in 2020, obviously, we had
Yeah.
COVID, kind of
Mm.
shut everything down, and
People
and
stop
especially
traveling.
because yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we were so focused in the travel industry, working with
Hmm.
cruise lines, and I created this product. It's an all around product that people use at home also, but the main purpose was to make this very travel friendly. And because
Hmm.
we were so focused on that, we took a pretty big hit on that travel side of things. We
Yeah.
couldn't work with the cruise lines. Everybody was shut down. No hotels, cruise lines,
Hmm.
stores, everything was shut down. So we didn't really have um, you know, much of a customer base at that point. We had
Yeah.
to really pivot at that point. I thought I had to really rethink, how am I going to keep this company alive? We
Yeah.
had no idea how long it was going to last, what was
Hmm.
going to happen. So it was about really restructuring everything and figuring out how to make it through that point. So I really pivoted from travel to working with custom clothing companies, replacing the dry cleaners essentially when they were shut down because
Hmm.
people weren't going out. Clothing companies couldn't reimburse clients for dry cleaning, so we kind
Hmm.
of took the product and said, and sold it to them, and they were able to ship it to their customers' houses, and it gave them some sort of effect of a dry cleaner, even though this doesn't really compare to a dry cleaner, but it gives you that portable, a little bit of
Yeah.
a portable option.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's the
Wow.
background a little
Yeah.
bit.
So that was a couple of tough years there.
Yeah, we had a couple tough years. I would say, yeah, 2020 for sure everything was shut down. 2021, things were opening back up again.
Hmm.
Weren't great, and we were also just scraping everything off the ground to get this company back up and running again.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I would say like towards ending 2021, getting into 22 is really when things started picking back up again. Once travel started picking back up and everything was opening back up. I mean, our sales kind of picked up by themselves naturally.
Hmm.
I mean, because once people were traveling again, it was just like a natural thing. I mean, and cruises. I mean, once cruises were open, I mean, we have a huge cruise customer base because it's the only option on cruise ships right now.
Yeah.
So the sales just went straight back to where they were. I mean, I'm obviously higher after that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was a couple of years of just holding it together and then building everything back up again after.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's incredibly hard. But the cool part is that when you survive the hard times, you come out so much stronger.
yeah, absolutely.
Our business, so we help brands develop new products, and ours actually booming during the pandemic because everybody went to e-commerce, and there were a million new sellers starting on Amazon every year. It's
Right.
crazy, and since e-commerce was growing so fast, people were ready to invest. They wanted to develop new products. They placed big purchase orders, and then our hits happened after the pandemic ended, and you know e-commerce slowed down again, and then there was a supply chain bullwhip effect that happened. So people over-ordered inventory, and suddenly they didn't need more inventory. And we were making money two ways: developing new products and help manufacture products, and both of them were down significantly. So,
Right.
But similar here, we had to cut costs and get smart. We figured out how to use technology, and then now things are turning back up, and we're I could never imagine that we could accomplish so much more with so few people.
Right.
You learn when you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the beginning is always about bootstrapping. It's about sometimes it's bootstrapping is what you have to do. You have to cut costs. You have to kind of restructure, and companies are always innovating. I mean, no company lasts forever. So as technology changes, as times change, you constantly have to pivot and structure the company in a way that it can survive in the current times. So
great. So a lot of our customers are interested in making new products. So can you talk a little more about how do you once you started reaching out to factories and such, did you go domestically? Did you go overseas? How did you go about the whole development process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, because I'm a good example, because I started with nothing, with no experience. So I can kind of give that experience starting from scratch, with no connections in any area. Yeah, so I started when I was creating the product. I was just buying local materials and stuff in the US, because it wasn't really about cost. I was making like a couple versions of it, so it wasn't about cost at that point. It's about making the product. So I sourced whatever I could find here in the US. Once I created a prototype, that's when I started thinking, okay, now I want to make like an actual batch of the product, run. So I had to start thinking, okay, what can I, and I was at that point where I also didn't have that much money. So I had to have a balance between, because also once you go overseas, there's a lot, you have minimum order quantities and you have the import costs and all that stuff. So I had to have that balance. I had to, kind of think about the balance between outsourcing some of it and what I can get in the US, and growing throughout the process. It was always about that. It was, I was constant. I started in the US, and I would slowly outsource stuff, slowly, change parts of the process of the manufacturing, to make it more efficient. But yeah, so once I was ready for that first batch, I outsourced some of the materials, mainly the main part of the product, the minerals I outsourced, because those, I mean, that's the most time consuming part of making the product. The packaging and all the other stuff is easy. You can get that anywhere, and you can have people here in the US do that stuff. But the time consuming parts, that's where it gets expensive, and where you need more resources. I couldn't handle, making, I mean, hundreds maybe, but thousands I couldn't handle making this, on my own, especially if I wanted to concentrate on, growing the company. So I use sources like, Alibaba in China to, to try to source manufacturers, a lot of, Googling and just, talking to as many people as I can that I knew that worked with, maybe Chinese manufacturers. And that's how so I started just asking around. I probably went through like 50 plus manufacturers of, talking to them before I picked people that I wanted to work with. And I had to get samples and make sure that they were able to do it right, and it worked properly and all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of just connections and online research. Once I found the manufacturers in China, so I started outsourcing the minerals. Then I started outsourcing the garment bags and the pods, and then I would have it all shipped here. And then I had like I started with a storage unit, then upgraded to a warehouse, and I slowly had people helping me, package and build the rest of the product. And then as we grew, I was able to, have the overseas manufacturers take on more of the process, rather than us doing it here in the US. So that way we have less work here and less cost here in the US. And then, so China was our main manufacturing point. Now our goal is, we're looking right now to switch, to have like both China and India manufacturers. And so we can have, I mean, we want to diversify, make sure that we always have, depending on the time of year, and we can always be manufacturing, manufacture the right amount of inventory that we need. and shipping wise and import, costs, factor into it. But yeah, that's kind of how I went about it. It was just,
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
great.
research and just, yeah, I mean,
Well,
it was a slow process. It's not an overnight process. I mean, it's
yeah,
yeah, over time, one step at a time, getting there, to where you have a manufacturer that could do everything that you need.
yeah.
Um,
No, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And we see a lot of companies too that are going through the transition you are with, trying to diversify their supply chain. China's
yeah,
great, but now with tariffs on the table and potentially going up, or most likely are going up more and more.
right.
See a lot of interest in trying to diversify in India and other places. So
Yeah,
we should.
absolutely.
I'll reach out afterwards, and you should share notes. We have a whole team in India, and I've had a lot of success over there too.
Yeah, actually, I think I started talking to some of the team at Gemba.
Oh, great!
Um,
Awesome.
so I think we might work a little bit on the India part of things.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be awesome.
and so yeah, once we're ready to finish setting things up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, even on that note, like you said, the import costs. I mean, we actually have some of our manufacturing still here in the U.S.
Mhm.
Like our wrinkle release sprays are actually made here in the U.S. still, because just dealing with the import costs and stuff. And
Mhm.
we're able to drop here in the U.S. We're able to manufacture that at a pretty low cost because we have a machine that does most of the work for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you invest in the machine and we stick the bottles in, it fills it, then we cap it, label it, all that stuff.
Mhm.
There's not, there's definitely costs to save, maybe outsourcing it a little bit. But I
Mhm.
mean, right now, being able to have it US made, being able to control, the quality,
Mhm.
and, being able to do runs whenever we want and not have to deal with importing it, it's kind of easy. So, I mean, with the sprays, we might even keep manufacturing here in the US and then maybe outsource some of it for some of the other countries we work with. But
Yeah.
um, we think there's definitely benefit. Every company is going to be different. I mean, there's benefits, some companies it benefits them to be in the US, depending on their size. Sometimes it's benefits them to be outside the US. So it
Yeah.
really depends on the case.
Yeah. And then there's certain product types that are, if you're in cut and sew, or fashion or shoes or something like that, footwear, there's a lot of options. But then
Right.
if you go to electronics, for example, it's hard to beat China there.
Right.
There's some emerging areas, but and even where there are capacity, like in Mexico, for example, there's capacity, but only really for bigger customers, right? If you come in with $1 million purchase order, they'll work with you, but they're not really set up to do small MOQs and such.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So great! What a great journey. So when did you feel that you had a real business? When did you sense that, wow, this is really for real? I run a real company now.
Yeah. I mean, I had that a little bit of that excitement before COVID started.
Yeah.
Once we launched, because we had a lot of good interest. I mean, we were about to launch in our first hotel chain. We were in
Yeah.
conversation with a major cruise line. We were selling online. So I had that feeling right before COVID,
Yeah.
where we were about to have that moment. But as soon as it crashed, obviously we never reached that point.
Yeah.
And then I think that the real moment when we actually accomplished that was probably, yeah, a couple of years after COVID, once things
Mhm.
picked back up again. And I saw that moment for me was really when I saw that after COVID, with having to scrape everything back up again with less money than we had before, all the interest, from customers and the sales just
Mhm.
picking back up again. So
Yeah.
that kind of gave me that belief of like, wow, it's not just me who believes in the product. People really like the product. People really need the product when they travel.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me that spark and that inspiration to just keep going and not give up. Um, yeah, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
it's nice to get that feedback from other people. I mean, if
Mhm.
it's hard when you believe in it and you're not getting the feedback outside, it's hard to keep that, motivation, to continue working on the company and not giving up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
It
mean,
sounds
I
like
think it was, yeah, sorry.
that's yeah. It just sounds like you also pursued multiple different sales channels. A lot of folks today, they just go online and that's all they do. But it sounds like you did both, sort of B2C and B2B at the same time. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I mean, yeah, my thought process was that e-commerce is super important nowadays. So that was an obvious sales channel for us. But I put a lot of focus, like you said, into B2B because not only because this was such a new product, I patented it, and there's nothing that exists like it, and I had a lot of opportunities with cruise lines and hotels and in the travel industry. So I saw an opportunity. E-commerce is great, but it takes time to scale. It takes time to build up. So it's not instant money, where you kind of use that. It's not a lot of money to use to grow the company necessarily until you really grow the e-commerce sales channel. I mean, even when you're making, what, $50,000, $100,000 a month, and you keep growing it, it's good money, and you can have that slow growth. But for me, the B2B side, was a lot bigger for us. I mean, like multi-million-dollar, contracts or deals with, it could be a hotel or a cruise line and stuff like that in the travel industry. And we also had a lot of, I mean, there happens to be, there's a humongous market outside the US. I mean, we're working in a lot of different countries.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah. So there might even, I mean, the truth is, just from feedback and what I'm seeing, I mean, there could be even more of a market outside the US, for the product. I mean, there's a lot of other countries, big populations in some of those other countries. And, there's a lot of countries that where they dress nicely and wear clothes. I mean, we're us Americans, I mean, we like to relax. I mean, when we're in business, we'll dress nicely, but otherwise we're in shorts and a t-shirt, relaxing on the beach or something like that. So, there's other countries where you have more people maybe dressing nicer on a day-to-day basis, or more of a need for this type of product.
At least in Europe, hotel rooms are generally smaller, and they probably don't all have irons in them, which most American hotels do. So that's exactly exciting. So did you hire overseas sales force then, or are you still?
So we're slowly doing that. So we got a person working in Canada. We hired a sales company in the UK, like England, and some of the Europe area, like Israel. And then we started selling in some other countries like Australia, Italy, and then even South America. I mean, like Mexico and some of those other areas down south. So it's more based on, so as we have interest, and it's also about the ability to scale. So it's not, might have interest in some other countries, but there's only, you have to have enough capital to scale and grow your manufacturing and be able to handle all that supply and set up the proper infrastructure in those places. So as we get to those points, then we'll get the right teams in place to handle those areas.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned up front that you talked a little bit of valuation. Are you raising money for the business? Or?
So we actually we closed we were working on our Series A for the past couple of years. So so we actually just raised at a 50 million valuation.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So we're at that point where we're in that, like I said before, we're in that transition from startup to like full on company, and just we're gonna with the capital and the growth that we have right now, we're gonna be able to just scale a lot more around the world and set up the proper infrastructure where we need it. Whereas until now we had to do it step by step, make sure we're allocating the capital properly and kind of bootstrapping the business. But now, once you get to a certain point and you have that capital and you have that growth, you're able to kind of invest the money and scale a lot faster than before. So
did you don't have to share if you don't want to, but you raised $10 million or something then?
Yeah, we raised about 10 million.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats. So thank you. Then we're looking forward, with capital. I assume that you're growing the team and adding infrastructure and all that. What are you most excited about in the next 12 months?
I'm excited I'm excited to expand really more worldwide, and set up some infrastructure in other countries. I'm excited to continue growing in the US also. I mean, there's still a lot of stores and companies to work with. But we kind of had that excitement a little bit, already. We've been selling here for a while now. So I'm excited to really get it out around the world and get that feedback and see what people think about it, and see how far I could take this company. And
if people want to buy your product, where do they go? about
I
the
mean,
company?
yeah, I mean, pretty much, I mean, any of the classic online sales channels. I mean, Amazon, Walmart, you can go to our website. You know, we have some stores being set up in different states, you know, it's all random right now. But yeah, definitely online. I mean, you can get the product in a day or two if you want it. So,
That's it,
um,
instasteam.com.
InstaSteamPod.com,
All right.
pod.com.
Right.
Yeah. Or just type in InstaSteam anywhere.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
SEO is pretty good, so it should pop up. If it doesn't, let me know, and then I'll have to talk with my team to make sure that we
Yeah.
pop up first.
That's
So,
great. That's great. Well, really appreciate you joining us and sharing your story, and congrats on all the success. Before we close, do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience?
um, I mean, there's a lot of advice in business, but yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, first of all, you have to, when you start a business, commit to it. You know,
Mhm.
there's a reason that most businesses fail is because it gets hard and people give up. You
Yeah.
know, that you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So you really, when you start a company, don't start unless you're willing to commit to it and really believe in what you're doing, and learn how to, you know, take failures and learn from them, and you know, just, yeah, it's a constant up and down, you know, process and the growth of the company. So just never lose sight of, you know, of your end goal, and just continue working at it. I mean, look, even with doing that, it's not, you know, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to be successful, but you at least have to try your best.
Yeah.
So yeah, my advice would just be to, yeah, just don't lose sight of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So,
almost we talked a little bit about get rich quick schemes up front. I think
right.
most startup founders I talk to, you know, there's been at least one time in the history of the company where they almost went under. And, you know,
Right.
most people don't know about that. You just, you know,
Yeah.
Inc. magazine or Fast Company, they don't write about the
Right.
hard times. It's everything.
Exactly.
It's almost like the Instagram version of business. It just looks
Yeah.
so easy. Hey, I grew to 100 million in 2 years. Yay.
Right.
That
Yeah.
doesn't
Nobody knows
happen.
the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now that you mention that, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, yeah. I mean, the get rich quick. That would be another piece of advice I would give to people would be,
Mhm.
there's short-term and long-term growth. I mean, if you have a short-term focus, I mean, I mean, there's a big chance that you might fail because short-term success is not a long-term, you know, goal, or it's not going to give you that long-term success. There's a lot of things that might make you money in the beginning that
Mhm.
don't set you up for success in the long run. I would say to grow slowly in the beginning and focus on the long-term success of your company. You'll
Mhm.
be a lot better off in the future.
Yeah.
You know, getting a couple $1 million in the beginning is, you know, not worth giving up many more millions in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now if someone came to you and told you, you know, you could have 100 million in 10 years from now, or I'll give you 2 million now and your business is going to shut down, you know,
Mhm.
most people would choose the long term. Hopefully. I mean, you would, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing. And thanks again for joining the podcast. Best of luck in the future and look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.